Welcome back, folks, to WrestleRant, where I give my in-depth analysis of all the pay-per-views that I watched in the WWE Network. Over the course of the month of August, I've reviewed a handful of installments of SummerSlam, including the 1988, 2002, 2008, and 2011 shows. So today, I thought it'd only be fitting to close it off with last year's SummerSlam 2013 review. So with that being said, kicking off the show is Bray Wyatt versus Kane in a Ring of Fire matchup. I thought the build-up going into this was pretty decent, considering Bray Wyatt and Kane had similar characters and both guys being crazy. And I was pretty initially excited for the announcement that this matchup would be a Ring of Fire contest. They wanted to avoid calling this an Inferno contest at all costs for some reason. I guess they wanted to completely forget about all the history that matchup had. But with that being said, though, I was pretty excited to see the Inferno match return, because it had been about 6 years since we last saw it with Kane and MVP. So for it to be brought back for this contest, I was pretty fucking excited about. But the matchup itself was pretty mediocre. And to have it kick off the show was also a bad decision, because it was probably the show's only bad match. So with that being said, not the best matchup, not Bray Wyatt's best showing, definitely not Kane's best showing. But with that being said, though, the matchup pretty much sucked. Bray Wyatt is a great in-ring worker. He just needs the right guy to go with. A guy like Daniel Bryan, John Cena, and Chris Jericho are all guys over the last year that Bray Wyatt has had very good matches with. But with that being said, Kane was just not that guy. And the matchup was not good. To have it kick off the show was not good at all. And just the Ring of Fire matchup was very disappointing, since I was pretty excited going into it. But the next matchup after this was Cody Rhodes versus Damien Sandow. It was at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view 1 month prior, that, or even before that, these two had been tagging for many, many months, a part of the Rhodes Scholars tag team. And then going into it, I wrote an article about this on Bleacher Report shortly before Money in the Bank, that these two should break up. Cody Rhodes was ready to go back on his own as a singles competitor, as was Damien Sandow. He had really yet to be a singles competitor up to this point. So I was ready for them to break up, and they solidified their breakup at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view when Damien Sandow turned his back on Cody Rhodes to win the SmackDown Money in the Bank briefcase. So with that being said, it really set the stage for the SummerSlam contest on this show. A good matchup for what it was, really nothing out of this world amazing, but for 7 minutes of in-ring time, I thought it was pretty good. More of a matchup that you'd see on Raw or SmackDown, but for what it was, I thought it was pretty good. Cody Rhodes ended up going over, and this would pretty much, I wouldn't say solidify the babyface turn of Cody Rhodes, but it would in a way, in that he showed up to this matchup without the signature mustache that he was known to have up to this point, as he had debuted that in, I think, November of 2012. And then he would shave it off on the show, kind of fully transforming into the babyface that a lot of people wanted him to be. So a good matchup. I wanted this to transfer into a rematch between the two at the United Champions pay-per-view over to the Money in the Bank briefcase, since Cody Rhodes had defeated Damien Sandow not only once, but twice, including the next night on Raw. So we never really got that third matchup up until a couple of months ago on a throwaway match on Raw. But it really sucked, because I thought it really sucked, considering this feud was actually pretty good going into SummerSlam, and they really just kind of forgot about it after SummerSlam, which, like I said, sucked. So up next, we had Alberto Del Rio versus Christian for the World Heavyweight Championship. And even before this, I forgot to mention this before, but RVD versus Dean Ambrose in the pre-show for the United States Championship. It's not included on the broadcast if you watch it on the WWE Network, but, I remember watching it when it first aired live on the app about a year ago. It was a good matchup, but you're not really missing anything considering it's not on the network. But continuing fourth year, Alberto Del Rio versus Christian for the World Heavyweight Championship. This was a matchup I was very excited about. Christian's first World Heavyweight Championship opportunity in about 2 years. He had just come back from injury. He was riding a wave of momentum, defeating a number of superstars, defeating Del Rio in non-title matches on 2 different occasions on both Raw and SmackDown, respectively. And leading into this third and final world opportunity for Christian was pretty cool. A lot of people didn't think he would win. I didn't think he would win. There was kind of the off chance that he might. But for what this was, considering that a lot of people thought that Christian wasn't going to win, this was a great matchup. Very well wrestled. A lot of people suspended their disbelief at various points during this contest, considering that Christian's close near falls made people think that, holy shit, he might actually win the world title here. And he did come close on various occasions. Del Rio, a lot of people were not high on him at the time, considering that he had just turned on Ricardo Rodriguez. Some people were expecting him to come back and interfere and either rejoin Del Rio or turn on him and cost him the world title, which was what I was hoping for. Did not ultimately come to fruition. But Del Rio's character was not at its best point at the time. He was having a good run as World Heavyweight Champion, in my personal opinion. So he had a great showing here, as did Christian, as they would show during their 2011 series of matches. These guys have amazing fucking chemistry together, and I'm surprised that people aren't more high on the matches that these two have had. I mean, I know they're both boring, so to speak, but their Extreme Rules matchup was very good. I thought this matchup was great, and the feud is pretty lackluster. I mean, the feud going into this matchup at SummerSlam was not even lackluster, it was just pretty non-existent. Because they never really bothered to build it up at all, because they really relied on Punk and Lesnar, and Cena and Bryan to carry the entire show, when I thought this matchup could have been a solid third main event matchup for the show, but they really just kind of missed the ball on that. But even still, great matchup between Del Rio and Christian. This is only about, I don't know, a few days removed from when Del Rio was beat up at outside or something. I think he got in a fight with some fan or someone in an alleyway or something weird like that, and Drew McIntyre, I think, came to his aid or something really weird like that, and he had gotten the shit beaten out of him, and he just looked terrible on the show. So that's why if you watch the show back and you see him being beaten up before the matchup even begins, the commentators credit the kill switch for being the reason behind it. So at least they try to explain it, but they're not going to actually say that he was beat up in real life or something. But anyway, though. And also, after the matchup, Del Rio would cut a promo saying that he was the hero of Mexico and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was setting up a return for Rey Mysterio. That would not end up being the case, or Mysterio would not return for another 3 more months, I don't think. So, for that, with that being said, though, I thought the matchup was great. The post-match promo was pretty meaningless, though, because the whole hero of Mexico thing really didn't serve much of a purpose. I mean, it led nowhere for Del Rio going into 2014, but yeah, great matchup and one of those underrated contests on this SummerSlam card. Natalya taking on Brie Bella. Once again, a matchup without any real hype behind it. They had, cross paths a few times before this matchup on Total Divas and on Raw. And the whole Total Divas hype was pretty terrible. The show was actually pretty good, and it is pretty good. I still watch it to this day. I mean, you could shoot me now, but I think the show is pretty enjoyable for what it is. But everything that they tried to hype it up with on Raw and SmackDown going into SummerSlam, like the whole name calling and calling Natalya the ugly duckling, was all stupid bullshit, and that was really dumb. But the matchup itself was better than I expected, in my personal opinion, considering it got 5 minutes of in-ring time. Brie Bella is not the strongest in-ring worker out there, but it's just amazing to think that 1 year later she was in one of the 2 main events of SummerSlam with Stephanie McMahon of all people, and then 1 year prior to that she was facing Natalya, which is not a slight to Natalya, but it was a throwaway Divas matchup. But like I said, it was a halfway decent matchup. Pretty well wrestled. The fans didn't care. They were chanting random things at ringside. And everyone in attendance, that is. They were just, doing random chants like the people after the night after WrestleMania usually have. The night after WrestleMania 29 when people hijack the show. That's basically what the fans try to do during this match. I thought it was pretty disrespectful considering it was a pretty decent matchup, but Natalya went over, so good booking there. I did not see that happening. Up next, we had Brock Lesnar versus CM Punk, and my personal favorite match from the show, if not my favorite match of the year, and I still rank it to this day, in my personal opinion, Brock versus CM Punk is the best matchup of 2013, and Cena and Bryan is right up there. I would give it a very close second, but in my opinion, Lesnar and Punk take home the gold for the best matchup of 2013, in my personal opinion anyway. But with that being said, this matchup, the feud going into it, I thought was stellar. We had CM Punk trying to fight up against the odds against Brock Lesnar, the huge size difference between the two, and Punk was fighting an uphill battle against Brock Lesnar, when the real feud was between CM Punk and Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman was the advocate of Brock Lesnar and the former advocate of CM Punk, I guess. And those two were having a very great feud going into SummerSlam, but Lesnar and Punk, although the focus wasn't really on them during the course of this feud, they still had a hell of a matchup, a lot of entertaining action. And for everyone that says that CM Punk really can't match up to Brock Lesnar in terms of sheer size, I understand that. Brock Lesnar went over, so we can all, understand the fact that it wasn't completely illogical to give CM Punk a strong showing against Brock Lesnar. But something that a lot of people fail to realize is that CM Punk, much like Brock Lesnar, has an MMA background. I know he's small and he can easily be get the shit kicked out of him by Brock Lesnar in real life, but he's also CM Punk, that is, a legitimate tough guy with his MMA background, and that's why I really love this matchup and thought going into it, it would be a great matchup considering their similar backgrounds, and that's exactly what it was. They incorporated a lot of MMA holds, and being a fan of MMA and doing MMA myself, seeing a lot of these moves rolled out, like the Kimura, which we've seen before from Brock Lesnar in WWE, the arm bars and everything, the chokeholds, everything about this matchup on the Go-Go Platters. I really enjoyed every aspect of this contest, especially the storytelling and that CM Punk was trying to battle up against Brock Lesnar, but would ultimately come up short when he was distracted by who he really wanted to get his hands on, Paul Heyman. So CM Punk, what the story was that he would have defeated Brock Lesnar had it not been for Paul Heyman, so it gave CM Punk a hell of a rub, Brock Lesnar another great win, and it would continue his string of victories going into 2014 when he would defeat The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania 30. That's another video for another day, but anyway though. Great matchup here, really, really enjoyed it. I don't even think great does it justice. I really don't think anything that I say will do it justice because it was such a phenomenal matchup, and I really just run out of adjectives discussing it whenever I talk about it in articles and videos because it was a great, great contest, and I had a blast reliving it on, watching the show because it was such a great match, and both Brock Lesnar and CM Punk, came out of this looking like, all-stars because it was, they had such a great showing against one another, and I was still waiting for that rematch between them, either whether it be at the end of the year or WrestleMania, but CM Punk's, departure kind of, disallowed that from happening. But if CM Punk ever does opt to come back to WWE, this is one match I really want to see again, him and Lesnar. If not for the championship, I would absolutely love to see it over the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, but great stuff here from Brock Lesnar and CM Punk. Up next, we had Brock Lesnar. We had not Brock Lesnar. What am I saying? Dolph Ziggler and Caitlyn taking on AJ Lee and Big E Langston and mixed tag team action, much like, the 08 edition, like I reviewed a couple of, last week, in that Glamorella versus Kingston and Mickey. It was kind of like that, the same period of time. It was only about 6-7 minutes long, this matchup was. But this matchup had more meaning, with Dolph Ziggler feuding with AJ, as well as his former heavy Big E, and Caitlyn was also feuding with AJ at the time. So this matchup had some meaning and story behind it. And for that reason, I enjoyed it. It wasn't really anything special, but it was better than your ordinary filler matchup that we would get in between the World Championship matches or the main matches on any other pay-per-view in WWE. So, with that being said, though, I thought this was a pretty decent contest. Dolph Ziggler and Caitlyn went over, with Dolph Ziggler getting his vengeance over AJ and Big E. And I thought from this point forward, great, Dolph is done with AJ. We're done with this feud. He can move forward. He can continue to contend for the World Championship. But we wouldn't get that. We wouldn't get that at all. Dolph Ziggler would go on to become Mr. Job Out. He would continue to job out to everyone that he would face for the rest of the year, including Damian Sandow, Dean Ambrose, Fandango, and everyone else in between. So I thought that was pretty disappointing that they never really put him back in the World Championship picture before they unify the two titles at the end of the year. So good stuff there. We get to the main event between Daniel Bryan and John Cena. Needless to say, an excellent contest. Daniel Bryan and John Cena had a great Raw match about a year prior to this, in August of 2012, So to fast forward 1 year later and get to this contest, I thought was great. To see the two on the main stage. Daniel Bryan was so over at the time, and he still is to this day, even though he's still out with an injury. But this was when his momentum was really starting to build, and I thought his showing against Cena was great. A lot of offensive movers from both guys. John Cena did not dominate the entire matchup. Same with Daniel Bryan. John Cena, give him all the shit that you want, that he's not a great wrestler, but he's had so many great matches over the course of the years that I don't know how some people can say that he's not a great wrestler. Yes, you can make the argument that his opponents have carried him, but really, have his opponents carried him at every great matchup that he's ever had? With CM Punk, with even The Rock at WrestleMania 28, I thought it was a really good matchup. This matchup against Daniel Bryan, Shawn Michaels, he's had so many great matches over the course of his career that I really don't think that you can always credit his opponent for carrying him through a great matchup. It takes two to tango, and I thought this was a very good contest. So Daniel Bryan defeating cleanly John Cena to win his first WWE Championship, going over. Triple H serving as his special guest referee. And one thing that I really enjoyed about this matchup was that Triple H, as a special guest referee, didn't take anything away from this contest at all. He didn't add to it, but he was a background player. And it really just kind of, begged the question after this matchup concluded and before the other angle took place, was that why was he really a referee to begin with? And I thought he might turn on Bryan after the matchup, and which he would, and I thought Cena might aid in that, but he didn't. And Cena would, take off shortly thereafterwards due to his elbow injury. And with that being said, props to John Cena, props to John fucking Cena for getting through this great matchup with that busted elbow, with that gross-looking elbow, They had a great matchup, and with that being said, I mean, Cena, you got to commend him for everything that he's worth, that he made it through this matchup with that nasty-looking injury, so props to him for doing just that. But anyway, Triple H didn't really take away from this matchup, which was great to see. And then afterwards, after John Cena exited the ring after, shaking the hand of Daniel Bryan was celebrating his WWE Championship victory. Out comes Randy Orton, Mr. Money in the Bank. And he looks to be cashing in, but he decides against it. He walks back up the ramp, looks back, and then comes the awesome moment in which I marked out. It's right here on the channel. You can check it out, of when I filmed 2 videos of Buffalo Wild Wings when I watched this pay-per-view, of when Daniel Bryan, either when he won the championship or I think when he made his entrance, the entire Buffalo Wild Wings going crazy when Daniel Bryan came out and doing the whole yes chant. It was awesome. And then I also have the video up here on the channel. It's under miscellaneous videos if you want to check it out, of when I marked the fuck out when Randy Orton cashed in, became the WWE champion, and Triple H turned heel, Randy Orton turned heel. I thought everything about this was stellar. And yeah, I mean, granted, the aftermath was bullshit, and they handled it terribly, with Daniel Bryan winning the championship and then being stripped of it, the Bayan storyline, everything about everything about the fall of 2013 was complete garbage. But at least this one event was pretty fucking epic, including this occurrence of Randy Orton and Triple H turning heel at the same time at SummerSlam. Randy Orton's heel turn was long overdue. And it's funny, because like I said in my 2011 SummerSlam review, I thought Triple H would turn heel on that show. On this show, I never really thought anything of it, because that was the last time I really had any faith in the Triple H heel turn, and we got it on this show, so I thought that was pretty great. But yeah, Daniel Bryan winning his first WWE Championship, setting the stage for his storyline against the Authority going into WrestleMania 30, which you can argue had its moments, of greatness and other moments of complete, like, what the fuck are they doing right now in terms of, like, their booking and stuff like that. But yeah, Cena and Bryan, great matchup, great post-match angle with Orton and Triple H going heel, which capped off, if not the best SummerSlam of all time, one of the best. And it's really up there. I was, when John told me, at JoeWhatIsOn on Twitter, I plug him every single video I do, but it's true, follow him. When we sat down to watch SummerSlam 2014, he had told me about the WWE.com list that this SummerSlam was ranked the best of all time. It was more of a reaction from me that I wasn't like disagreeing with the option to put it at number 1, but weren't there other pay-per-views that were better than this one? I know the 2008 and 2011 editions were both very good. 2002, which I reviewed here on the channel. The other one, what was the other one? 1992 from England. I don't know if I would say this one was the best of all time. I could see why they would rank it as such, with so many great matches with CM Punk and Brock Lesnar and John Cena and Daniel Bryan. That's probably why they rated it as number 1, was because 2 of the best matches of the year happened in the same night, on the same show, between Bryan and Cena and Brock Lesnar and CM Punk. So I could see it in that sense, but the undercard, I mean, it was very good. I'm not going to say it was great, but it was good. Rhodes and Sandow had a good matchup. Bray Wyatt and Kane had a very disappointing contest. Not either man's fault. I mean, just kind of watered down the Ring of Fire gimmick. Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, put out the fire like 5 or 6 times over the course of the matchup, trying to interfere. It really took away from the matchup. So you take that matchup away from the show, I thought this was a solid 9.5 pay-per-view, but with that one opening matchup, I'd give it a 9. But with that being said, though, yeah, Cody Rhodes and Damian Sandow, good matchup. Del Rio and Christian, a great matchup from them. Natalya and Brie Bella, better match than it had any right to be, considering that Brie Bella was involved and she improved a lot since then, and considering how much she would improve over the next year, going into her main event match with Stephanie McMahon. Not main event, but one of the main matches at SummerSlam 2014. Ziggler and Caitlyn versus Big E and AJ was also a decent filler match. Pretty good for a filler match, that is. And like I just said, with Brock and CM Punk, I've already called it great like a million times already. But yeah, phenomenal matchup, as well as Daniel Bryan and John Cena. So that being said, absolutely, like I've said for the last 2 SummerSlams, like I've said for every SummerSlam that I've reviewed up to this point, I would absolutely recommend you go out of your way to watch this show. Even if you watched it, I mean, had you not seen this pay-per-view yet, you probably weren't a fan at the time. I don't know how you couldn't have been. This was only a year ago. But anyway, though, I thought this was a very, very, very good pay-per-view, if not a great pay-per-view. Actually, I take that back. This was an excellent pay-per-view. I could see why WWE would rank it as number 1 on their best SummerSlams of all time. Would I rank it as such? That kind of, is up for debate. But that's everyone's personal opinion. But anyway, though, great pay-per-view. Go back and watch it on the WWE Network. I strongly recommend it. And whether this pay-per-view is better than the 2013 pay-per-view, Well, I'm sorry, it was better than the 2014 one, was also up for debate as well. I was really thinking that after watching this year's SummerSlam. But one thing is for sure is that WWE, over the course of the last few years, has really brought back that feel to SummerSlam that it lost at one point during the mid-2000s. That SummerSlam is one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year, and they treated it as such, the second biggest pay-per-view next to WrestleMania. And they definitely have treated it as such in the last couple of years. And I commend WWE for doing so, because I get excited for SummerSlam every time it comes around nowadays, because they do a great job of building it up and executing it. If this year's installment, last year's installment, the one that I'm reviewing in this video, 2011 and 28 were any indication. So, with all of that being said, thanks for watching, folks. Always appreciate it. Thanks for sticking through my SummerSlam reviews over the course of the month of August. I'll be back in September with a review of Night of Champions and maybe some Unforgiven events as well. So with that being said, if you want to support the show, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All support is greatly appreciated. I'm Graham Jason Matthews, and I'll catch you guys next week.